Happy Thursday.
Yeah, happy Thursday. How's your week going?
It's going good, man. It's going good. Got my first birdie ever on the golf course yesterday, so it's pretty fun.
Congrats. That's huge. I know you've gotten real into golf. Good hobby to pick up.
Yeah, no, 100%. How's the week going in Birmingham? How's the new office?
Man, the office is going great. My week would be going better if you would quit slandering my dating advice on LinkedIn. It's just like every day. It's just the hate and the slander has to stop. I don't give.
I know, man. That's why when I come down to Birmingham, I'm hoping you'll give me some solid advice.
Yeah, man. I'm not giving you any advice now. It's going too far. You've cut yourself off from advice.
I'm banned from it.
Yeah, foreseeable future. Yeah, at least a month or two.
Well, it should be a fun one today, man. Shout out to our sponsors, Multi-Service Fuel Card. We had them on last week, around since 1978, right?
A very long time.
Yeah, very long time. Longer than you and I have been alive. So great people. Reach out to them. Great discounts. Black Box Logistics. Are you guys hiring now finally? I feel like you used to tell me on the show we're hiring in like November or something for like the last 6 months.
So, I mean, we've been hiring, right, but we're onboarding. So we've been looking for people. I want to say maybe we have 1 or 2 spots left. Don't quote me on that. But we've got a group starting 10-14. So a couple weeks.
Oh, be fun. Trio Inc. They're doing our back end stuff. JJ's a cool guy. JJ, Matt, all those guys over there, they do all of our posts, some of our marketing. HD Ships, if you're looking to be an agent, hit me up. Happy to talk about that. We're also hiring for some W-2 reps remote, but I don't really handle that. But I can put you in the right direction if you're, W-2 is more your style. Sales Dash CRM. I can't believe I'm going to miss Josh. He's coming down like a day early for your for your party. But Sales Dash is super great product. I mean, you've been using them for a couple months now.
Yeah, it's a freight centric CRM. Josh, the founder, came from a freight background, so he built it out for brokers. It's very intuitive, flows nicely. What I like about it in comparison to some of the more prominent CRMs like Sales Dash, you don't have to build it out. It comes pre-built, right? And Josh's team are great to work with. So if and when you want any changes, it's pretty easy. They're good people. We've really enjoyed using Sales Dash.
Yeah, no, 100%. A lot of people are using them too. I talked to more and more people who are getting set up. Josh is definitely growing in this market. And our banner sponsors who we're actually having on the show today, brought to you by TAFS, top 10 factoring company, great guys. We're going to have a chance to, talk to them more in depth today about TAFS and what they do, their history, just learn more about factoring in general. It's kind of interesting. Before we get into it, I think I've had 3, maybe 4 calls this month from brokers at, smaller brokerages that are running into financial issues. And factoring, a lot of people can hate on factoring, but it's a lot better than going out of business, and a lot of companies just really aren't very good at or don't have the resources to manage their own finance. And if you don't, employees leave. Like I've been, hearing from multiple reps this month, small companies about to go out of business. So.
Yeah, usually, at least when I think about factoring in the freight industry, it's usually on the carrier side. That's what comes to mind. But yeah, a lot of brokerages do utilize factoring companies, and it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, we'll have the guys. We'll bring them out. They can speak on a lot better than we can, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Let's do it. Awesome.
Yeah, we got a full house today. We've got Ryan with TAFS, Rob with TAFS, and then we've got David Campos, who runs Hotshot USA, a bunch of social media pages, and he's involved on the carrier side and has a good relationship with TAFS. So we're excited to have everybody on.
I'm also a fleet operator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you want to start, David? Before we go over to Ryan and Rob, I know you said you're a fleet operator. You're running social media. It sounds like you're a busy guy, and I'd love to hear kind of your background, how you got into trucking, and maybe kind of a little bit about your relationship with TAFS too.
Okay, I'm the creator and the founder of Hotshot Trucking Shows USA and Hotshot USA Resource Network, which is a group or neighborhood of associated Facebook groups, LinkedIn, YouTube, all the players, I'm also on YouTube, and I've got quite a bit. I got my finger in a little bit of everything. But at the end of the day, I'm just a hotshot guy, just like most of my members. I operate trucks. I've spent many days on the road. Actually, that's how I got into this social media side. Is that people would come up to me all the time asking me, "How'd you get into hotshot? How do I get into hotshot?" And I would help them. And then I decided I'm going to write a book about it. And I wrote a book several years ago, and it's helped well over 1,000 people get started. And I put in the more of the meat and gravy of hotshot driving, not just the essentials like getting your LLC. I told people about things you need to know to stay safe, how to keep out of ditches, what you do when you do get in a ditch, because one of the most inevitable things about hotshot trucking or any trucking is you're going to break down. And I told people what to do, how to get on social media, ask people for help, how to look for mobile mechanics. I wrote a lot of little bitty things, but over the years I've I've expanded, trying to change the perception and make hotshot trucking more of a professional, more of a by providing a resource for them to find everything that they needed. But I met these fine gentlemen in a bar. Not really. We ended up in a bar, but we used to do a yearly little get together down in Houston, a little seminar put on by one of our friends, uh, and we would meet down there, and they would do their presentations and then I started using them for my hotshot trucking company. I've used them for several years, and I've become pretty good friends with them. And then if this don't tell you something, I carry this with me everywhere, not because it's because I write everything down in notes, and that's how I wrote my book, by keeping notes all the time. But
as the marketing guy, it makes me feel good to see that you have that. That's great.
Yeah. And that's.
Let me ask you real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you. So this book that you
wrote, you have to stop me.
Find it? Where can people find it, or what's it called for anybody tuned in listening that might be interested in picking up a copy or exploring that? The title of the book.
The title of the book is Hotshot USA: How to Start a Hotshot Business. I have a resource website, hotshot-usa.com, and that's my main resource website, where I have. Then I also have hotshotshow.com. But you can find the book, you can find my blogs. I have a newsletter. I have a lot of resources there, and we're constantly expanding. And we are planning on. We were going to do it in October, and I've been saying this every year. My eventual plans are to put on trade shows, or it's going to be Hotshot Trucking Roundup and Trade Show. And my first one's going to be in Houston, and we'll eventually have them all across the United States. But if any of you in trucking know that every day there's problems. I've got 2 trucks down. Seems like it's one gets up, the trailer goes down, and it's always something like that. But it takes a lot of my time, and social media is another rabbit hole. I can get in my office in the morning at 6 a.m. I'm going to do this, have a to-do list, and then I open up my groups, and the next thing it's midnight. I'm still trying to keep people from arguing about some simple little thing. What's the best factoring company? All these different questions they ask.
Those Facebook groups can be entertaining. I'm in a couple of them, and sometimes I read through the comments. It can be a lot managing that, I'm sure.
Yeah, if you're going to try and stop arguments on social media, good luck.
I just kick them out anymore. I don't try to argue with them. If they can't do it, I just did a post yesterday. If you can't be sociable, we can't have political posts. That's for sure, because people take it to another level. And the next thing they're calling each other names and threatening them, and then Facebook comes down on us. But don't let me talk, as I will talk your ears off, and I'll go 100 different directions. I was always worried when I first did this. I've only done a few podcasts, but I'm always worried that I'm not going to have nothing to talk about, and then I can't shut up.
No, everything that you're sharing is great. I will say, I really respect and appreciate people like you that share their knowledge experience, right? I think it's so important for us as an industry. And one of the main reasons that Matt and I started this podcast, right, is to bring people on like you as a resource for anybody listening out there that's interested in looking for some direction, right? Let's circle back to so we usually start the show and we just kind of ask people how they ended up in logistics, right? Because it's very rare that anybody was, like 7 years old in school going around, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to work in logistics or factoring or be a freight broker. Ryan and Rob, how did you guys get in with TAFS and what kind of, just tell us about your journey.
Yeah, so I've been with TAFS going on a little over 11 years now. Got in the industry. My dad's been a freight broker my entire life in a line haul dispatcher. So I grew up around trucking. Growing up, never thought I'd be a part of it. When my first real job I held for 10 years. I worked for an alcohol distributor out here in Kansas, going around sampling all the different types of alcohols to liquor stores.
That's a hell of a job.
Sounds like a bad gig.
As I started to get a little bit older and create a family, it got just a little bit harder to do some of that and staying out late and going in some of these sampling. So saw a job post at TAFS for an opportunity, not knowing what factoring was, but I knew transportation's always been good to my family. So I've always been around a lot of good people, been around a lot of drivers. So I took the opportunity, started as a sales account manager, worked as a sales account manager, just cold calling and trying to get carriers to sign on with TAFS for a few years. Was promoted to sales manager. Shortly after that, I was promoted to our national accounts team. So I managed our national accounts, which is our ambassador program, and people like David that can refer people over to TAFS. From there, I went back onto the sales side to kind of help generate some of the numbers that we were seeing as business started to pick up. As those numbers started to steady, leadership at the time, we had an idea to start targeting some larger companies. So we created a new department, our business development department. So I became the director of business development and started targeting some of the large carriers that were out there, which led to my current title as the vice president of sales at TAFS, or as a lot of people that meet me in the industry, like David said, you'll meet me in bars. So I might say I'm the CPO of TAFS, the chief party officer, because I like to go out and have a good time when I'm around. So if you see me, come say hello.
They really do.
Chat.
They really do.
And that kind of rolls right in, like events and things like that we've really kind of gone a grassroots route from our marketing perspective in the last probably year and a half or so, where we've been at a lot of events, and we just started having after hour happy hours, things like that, and just inviting a bunch of people and just getting people in the trucking industry to just meet each other. And a lot of people are gain different types of business and different types of points of view on a lot of stuff, and it's just it's very valuable, because at the end of the day, like, we only succeed when our carriers do, and so anytime we can connect them with somebody like David or somebody that's very knowledgeable about the trucking side of the industry, I think that's a great thing. But
how is the trucking market in Kansas City, where you guys are based? Is there a lot of carriers, a lot of brokers, or what kind of is the market like in Kansas City?
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City in general, it's a freight town for sure. I mean, there's a lot of rail. I mean, the Kansas City Railway started here, and so it's a kind of like a gateway from one side of the country to the other, and so there's a lot of freight that gets started here, and it holds as an intermediary to a lot of stuff. And so there's several big brokerages that are based here in Kansas City. There's several factoring companies based in Kansas City. There are lots of trucking companies. Our sister company is Trans Am Trucking. It's one of the larger refrigerated freight trucking companies that are out there. And then there's a lot of tech companies. And a lot of people don't know Kansas City was the first city in the country to get Google Fiber. And so when that happened, there was a lot of tech companies and fintech and all kinds of different stuff that came to Kansas City to start their business, because they think they would have a big advantage for the speed of the internet and speed their systems and things like that. And so we saw a big tech boom whenever that first came out.
And then one of your sponsors, Multi-Service Fuel Cards, they're located here in Kansas City as well.
We're very Kansas heavy podcast.
Except they're damn Chiefs fans.
Yes. They at least win. Minnesota doesn't win in anything, so
Dallas doesn't anymore either.
Well, I'm kind of curious. I know this is probably a basic question, but you see, like, there's a lot of missing good information on factoring, online. There's also a lot of misinformation. Maybe just kind of starting with the basics for some of our viewers, like what is factoring and how is it used in the trucking industry compared to other industries?
Yeah, factoring at the end of the day, just to simplify it, it's just speeding up cash flow for the carrier. There's a lot of carriers that are out there, a lot of brokerages pay 35, 40 days on their pay terms. But in between that time frame, the carrier is going to have their insurance due, their truck payment due. There could be possible, breakdowns, different things like that. They've got fuel in between their stops. So what a factoring company does, it just speeds up that cash flow. Here at TAFS, we can fund you within 1 hour of you delivering that load. We're open 365 days a year, so we can pay you weekends, holidays, anytime that you're in need of your cash flow, we can get you funds. So yeah, just to simplify it, it's just speeding up cash flow. And where we're going to separate ourselves in what we do is a lot of the benefits and a lot of the partnerships that we make. We take a very serious approach to it. And we really want to consult the carrier. There's a lot of really good factoring companies out there, and we all do the same thing. But it's just these little tweaks that we can do to maybe speed up some things with implementing a lot of technology side of things, or just being somebody that is going to stop and listen to your needs, tailor a program around your needs and what you specifically need, instead of just trying to throw you in a box. That's what's going to make TAFS stand out in the crowd.
Is that pretty common, or is that uncommon, to be able to get funding on holidays for factoring companies?
It's pretty rare, especially in this industry, because what it is, banks aren't open. So you've got to come up with different unique ways on how to fund the carriers. So one of the other advantages that we do have an F2 fuel card, but on weekends and holidays, we can actually advance to that fuel card when the banks aren't open.
Oh, very cool. I know you guys mentioned tech too, because you hear about tech so often in the brokerage space with AI and automation, and on the trucking side, too. But I guess what are some kind of ways that maybe technology, you guys are utilizing, technology there to, help carriers, help factoring? Where do you guys kind of, see that going? I'm sure it's getting into your space as well.
Yeah. And you look at kind of, for us, it's internal technology and external technology. And so a lot more internal technology than the external side. So what our clients will see, obviously they have a client portal where they can see all their open accounts receivable, what's been lended out to them and what hasn't been collected yet from the broker. And they have ability to kind of pull all the different reports and see kind of what their concentration is with debtors and all that type of stuff. And that also mirrors with our mobile app. And so what we try to do is we try to make it as easy as possible for them to submit the invoices. And so the mobile app is really used heavily by our smaller carriers, because you can literally just take a picture of your paperwork whenever you have that proof of delivery, BOL paperwork that's been signed, and when your load's done, and you can just submit it right there. And so you just have to fill out a few things and make sure it's a approved debtor in our system, credit checks and free credit checks, which is a big piece of what it is. And then on the back end, from a technology perspective, we have proprietary systems that allow us to review paperwork at a really, really fast speed. And so it allows us to process your invoice. And so that's why a lot of factoring companies can't do 1 hour funding, is because their systems on the back end aren't quick enough, or their process is just a little bit different in order to do that. And so every factoring company has different ways that they manage risk as well. And so there's a lot of software that's monitoring different things that are going on out there in the industry from a credit perspective, as well as just anything that we can do to make our team more efficient. And so, as you know, it's really from that perspective, it's similar to what you guys have to deal with on the brokerage side, is you're trying to make your team as efficient as possible. And so the more times an invoice gets submitted and the more people that have to touch it, the more expensive that invoice gets for us. And so we try to make it to where we can do it at a faster pace and have fewer touch points.
So I remember,
or go ahead, David. Sorry.
as far as technology, I remember as a user, as a client of TAFS, that they implemented about a year ago to where our ELDs are synced in with them. I don't know what the term is for that, but they can tell when we've actually made it made a drop off, that we actually, so that it cuts down the communication between TAFS and the broker. And that was pretty. I deal with a lot of people on social media that ask about. So I'm always explaining a lot of things on it, and I know that was something that I don't know if anybody else has it or not, but that technology is pretty sweet in itself.
And really, it comes down to it. Like, it's proof of delivery for us. So we want to be able to verify a load, and we want to be able to do it very, very quickly. And so we have bots and things on the backside that will go out and check the brokers' portals and debtors' portals to make sure that load is in there and everything is good. And so we try to make sure that we have our risk management things that to affect the client as less as possible, because when we have delays there, that delays funding for the carrier. And so we want to be able to make sure that we're verifying things quicker than anyone else out there, and having it done at a more efficient pace. That way, at the end of the day, client experience is king. And so we want to make sure that when somebody submits a 1 hour funding, that they're going to get it in less than an hour.
How is the verification process work as well? As I know, probably a big fear for carriers is if a broker goes out of business. And I was just thinking about this because I've talked to several brokers recently from smaller companies that are having trouble with payments and financials in this market. And one broker at a major factoring company pulled out, but other factoring companies haven't. Is that like a lot of what goes in, or concern for carriers is, hey, is TAFS or whichever factoring company gonna make sure to turn off this brokerage if they're having like a history, or how does that all work? Because I've just been hearing more about it lately, I think, with just the market.
Yeah, essentially what you're really trying to do as a factoring company is you're trying to minimize the fact that you won't get paid. So if a broker is having financial difficulty, the factoring company won't get paid. And so we try to put that on the front end to the carrier and let them know, if they check credit on that broker and that we have them as denied in the system, that saves the carrier from getting in a situation where they're not going to get paid.
Yeah, so we have an internal team that goes out there and audits and is constantly checking updated records with debtors. Obviously, being as large as we are and the amount of invoices that we purchase, we can see consistent payment history with a lot of different brokers and shippers that are out there. So as we start to see different fluctuation in payment history, it might lead to us just reaching out to a broker and saying, hey, you guys were paying in 35 days. Well, we've noticed that it's extended out to 40. Just kind of have open lines of communication. Maybe they changed software. Maybe they did something, that led to it. It doesn't always mean that there's financial stress there, but we take a lot of controls and have them in place just to make sure that we manage that. And then we update our system internally with our credit check system to let our carriers know, hey, these guys are good to go, or these guys, hey, maybe we've had to deny them or extend only a certain amount of line of credit or ability to haul one load only, just to make sure we manage the risk accordingly.
I think that communication piece is great, as far as if and when a brokerage might slow down or whatnot, reaching out and figuring out why. At least in my experience, sometimes things get lost. Maybe it's paper check. Just, communication can solve a lot of issues. So instead of just turning them off, reaching out and trying to work towards a solution.
Well, I could even say, with you going into a new office, some things are going to, in between the move and different things like that, something could happen that leads to an invoice leaking out for whatever reason. And yeah, communication's key. And that's why we've got a great team on the back end that does nothing but, kind of tracks those things and then reaches out as they see problems.
Do you guys have a rating system too? I have a buddy who I'm trying to push to actually talk to you guys. He's at a different major factoring company. What he tells me is he goes on and they have like a B, C, or A rating like through his factoring company. Is that kind of same way for you? If a carrier is trying to figure out how risky a broker is, they can go on their portal with you guys and kind of see their rating.
We don't necessarily have it as a rating per se, but we do stay as transparent as we can with the average days to pay. And so if you're a carrier and you're looking at in our system and doing a credit check on anybody that's out there, you're going to see how many average days to pay that broker or shipper is. And then we'll have a few different grading categories as far as, hey, yes, they're good to go. But with every broker, you have a credit amount that you're extending with that broker that's behind the scenes. And then sometimes if it's a slower, you'll have them as kind of like our yellow light, which is a one load only. And so we'll do one load extended until we get payment on that load. Then we'll extend another load just to get some payment history going with them. And then, we can move into green if everything's good there. And then obviously the red is a do not buy, where we won't advance funds to the carrier until we're paid on that load. But every factoring company has it a little bit different. Everybody has their own little method. At the end of the day, that's what they're trying to accomplish.
I know from a social media standpoint that a lot of times a lot of rumors come across that a certain broker is going out of business, or don't take any loads from them. I don't know if I can mention names, but I heard it quite a bit, about TQL and King of Freight. But I tell people that if it doesn't take them, then there's a problem. But if there's any kind of problem, they would be right on top of it. So a lot of these rumors are unfounded because you can clearly still get credit from them, still get loads from. And I do know that TAFS is on top of everything, sometimes too much. They're a great crew.
Yeah, I mean, I got to think. So just as of late, the last several years, with the increase in fraud, that having a factoring partner also protects you from maybe booking loads with bad actors, right? So if and when the load's not factual, hey, maybe there's a reason, right? So yeah, it might be frustrating that it's a no buy, but it's going to be a lot more frustrating if you run this load and expect to get paid $5,000 and then find out you're getting paid nothing, and then you have to deal with all of that. Have you guys seen an increase in that as of late over the last year or so?
We have, yeah, we've seen an increase in fraud, especially over the last few years. I will say, as of recent, because a lot of the controls that we've put in place, it's gone down drastically. With a factoring company, it starts with letting the bad actors in the door first. So when you tighten up your controls and different things that you can put in place on who you bring on as a client, that will kind of limit the fraud that can come in through the door. So I will say over the last few years, we've really decreased the amount of fraud that we've seen internally. But yeah, I mean, it's still out there. And one of the things we try to do is just advise our clients to the best of our knowledge of, different things to look at. When you go to book a load, make sure that you're booking it from somebody, that actual domain from that, from that actual, place of work, not from just a Gmail account. Maybe checking some references, doing different things that way, to just ensure that you're hauling for who and representing who they say they are.
Yeah, so when I think about it, I mostly think of brokers fraudulent, but you guys get a lot of carriers that actually aren't running loads trying to factor with you guys, like the double brokers factoring from a carrier. You see that?
Yeah, we will see people trying to push fraudulent loads through, trying to manipulate the system and maybe double broker the load or different things that way. Yeah, we will see it.
For sure. And we, again, that's a lot of our internal technology and a lot of our internal controls and things like that. Obviously, we can't go too much detail into that, how we prevent this, the stuff like that. But we have a lot of things that we're doing behind the scenes to make sure that loads are being caught if it's going to be some sort of a fraud or something in the door.
Yeah, that's one of the issues with fraud, right? You want to bring awareness, things to look out, but at the same time, they're listening as well. They're evolving and adapting. So if and when I say, well, yeah, like this is what you need to look out for, or anybody when you're talking about it, you're showing them how to get around it almost. So it's one of those.
I will say this, Will, one of the things like Ryan kind of touched on a little bit is we try to educate our carriers on how to keep them from getting frauded. And so we'll send out emails that kind of just say, hey, here are some tips to make sure that you're looking at whenever, this could be double brokering or this could be potential fake identity situation or whatever it is, or somebody that's, just faking a load in general. And so we try to send tips out to our carriers to make sure that they're checking those details, because we've seen a few times where we've had carriers that we have to give them the bad news and say, hey, you got scammed here. And it's never a fun conversation whenever that happens. And so anytime we can try to educate and do as many things as we can to our carrier base, we're going to do that.
Yeah, 100%.
You guys mentioned communication earlier too, and kind of you guys have some bots behind the scenes as well. And I know, communications talked a lot about with, brokers and shippers, but it's cool to hear that on the, because truckers are obviously on the road, they're busy, they have a million other things, to worry about. And if you want to touch a little bit on that, on the communication, both, with your carriers and then ease of doing business too. I mean, I know there were some factoring companies that, drive brokerage accounting firms crazy, and brokers, and some are just known to be, like yourselves, easy to work with. So I guess maybe just kind of touch on the communication aspect, because that was cool to hear that.
Yeah, we try to give multiple ways for them to communicate with us. And so we have a system inside of our client portal and our mobile app to where they can, put notes on whatever invoice that may be the issue invoice. And so once they put that note on it, an invoice alert comes into our system and our team can handle it and then reply to them and get a case back out on it. Another big piece of communication is just simple type of stuff, pick up the phone. And so we try to make it to where there is very, very little wait time for somebody to call us and speak to our reps. And we've really, we made a big change last year in order to drop our call wait times. And so we're happy to say that, folks right now, its average wait time is under 1 minute to get on a phone, and 70% of the phone calls over the last 2 months here have been answered in less than 30 seconds. So we really try to push that. It wasn't always the case. And then the other piece of it is whenever they call us, they'd like to talk to somebody that they've talked to before. And so because somebody that knows your account and knows your business, that makes a lot of difference. And so we created client experience teams, and they're little pods of 2-3 reps. And so that they can not only get the calls answered quickly, but one of those people that's on your team, on your pod, are going to be the ones that answers the phone and talks to you every time you call in. And so those are two big pieces from the client side. From the broker side, we have a collections team, obviously, that does communications with brokers, and then you have a billing team. And so you're billing and collecting. And again, we have phone number for those folks to call us in on that side. But communication is a big thing. Verifications is always a pain point between brokers and factoring companies because there could be a lot of phone calls. If there's a portal, it makes it a lot easier for us and better for everyone. But we don't want to be making all those phone calls and calling your team and bogging them down with the job that they already have to do. And so anything we can do to automate that communication is big.
Yeah. So at least in my experience, if and when we get those factoring verifications, it's pretty simple if it's clear and concise. But every once in a while, we get kind of an obscure one, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense, and we don't understand what they're asking. And then we're going back and forth 5-6 emails in one thread where it's like if you just made it clear from the beginning, it's solved in 10 seconds. But here we are going back and forth trying to figure out something that's should be pretty simple. So it's pretty cool to hear that you guys have good processes around it to be clear, and that communication is important to you guys.
And the same thing, like any brokers that are listening on this, if you're having any issues with us or any of your factoring company, let's get on a phone call and let's hash it out and figure out how to make it better, and make it more automated. We're 100% on board to do anything automated that doesn't resolve in a email or a phone call, because it takes time off of everybody's plate for stuff that they're really trying to get accomplished.
Yeah, last Friday we were at a friend's 40th birthday party, and we ran into somebody that owned a brokerage that was having some issues and was behind on a few payments, but it was because we weren't the billing process that we were having were conducive to the way that they wanted their billing. So just having some simple conversations, and kind of finding out more about his business. We got back into the office last Monday, had some conversations. We've cleaned up any billing issues with some of the invoices that were aged out. We've come up with a new process on how to make sure that he wants to see the information. That way they can stay on top of it for their end. So that just comes back. This industry, it's all about communication. The lines of communication that are there, it's just going to benefit everyone.
So say most issues can be solved with communication, right? And it's just if you know how to have those conversations and you're intentional with it, it's productive and it makes everybody's life easier. And the ease of doing business is so important. One of those intangibles, just people that you can work well with, being easy to work with, very important.
And you talk about technology changes all the time. You guys might change the way you want to be billed, and so there's a conversation that has to be had. There's a lot of factoring companies that are really embracing some of the technology. There's a lot of brokerages that are embracing technology. You get a bill in, there's some of them that have bots that are taking that bill and processing it through their accounting system. And so they need the subject line of the email to say a certain thing when it comes in. And so just communicate back and forth, like you said, and ways that we can make both of our jobs easier mutually.
100%.
Do you guys do factoring too? How does it work with, you guys just deal with, this might be a dumb question, but I'm curious. Do you guys deal mainly just with US carriers or Canadian carriers that are doing, cross-border freight? Can they factor with you? Or I just never thought of that. So
let Ryan handle this.
No, we do work in Canada. We work down in Laredo. We can facilitate a little bit through the Mexican borders. But that gets a little bit trickier. We're looking at some different things to open that up possibly here in the future. But we do have carriers, Canadian carriers and US carriers that we do factor.
Very cool.
It's kind of how it is with moving freight too. Canada's a little bit easier, and then Mexico gets a little tricky.
Yep.
We don't do any Mexico freight. We're onshore to Mexico, but Canada's not a problem.
Well, David, I guess I know we've been talking a lot to Ryan and Rob here. What's do you want to maybe kind of give us your experience kind of working with TAFS and maybe some of the different things? Obviously, you're big on social media. You talk to a lot of different carriers. What are you kind of hearing out there on some of the benefits of TAFS that you've experienced or carriers that have experienced?
Okay, first of all, I got to let you know that my Bluetooth, the phone rang a minute ago and knocked my Bluetooth out, so I'm having to listen to you through the phone. But okay, thing about TAFS. So a few years ago, COVID hit, and they had, just like everybody else, had some problems, but they caused them to improve their service, and they had their personal service. I have Jacob that I talk to, and I talk to him almost on a daily basis. That's my client customer service rep, whatever. But he's like family, like a good friend. But a lot of times when I tell people about TAFS, I'll tell them that that's one of the things that they've really bent over backwards to try to make it a lot better experience. I will say about any factoring company that since it is involving risk and involving invoices and involving brokers and so many different moving parts, that they have to put in a lot of policies, and that if you don't have somebody who's in your corner, somebody who you can call and say, hey, why did they do this, or why did they do that, or why have this invoice paid, or how come what's the deal? And a lot of times I'm calling, my dispatcher's calling, and my driver's calling, and everybody's freaking out, and I'm saying, hold on a minute, let me call Jacob, let me see, and he'll explain it, he'll put me in with the right people, right, and it's something that you definitely have to have in factoring, because a lot of the times I see on social media people complaining about this factoring company, that factoring company, but it was actually, if you went to the root of the problem, it was user error, or somebody didn't go through the due diligence of following through on something, because there's a lot of follow through. Right now, I've probably looked at my emails. If I looked at my emails, I'd see emails that said there's a problem with this invoice, or BOL wasn't signed, or second page. Even my years as a driver, when I worked for, or I didn't work for, I worked with a dispatcher that he was always calling me, telling me, you had 2 pages on that factoring, on that BOL. And I said, well, the first one only the first one needed a signature. I said, yeah, but the factoring company has to have 2 pages because it said page 1 or 2. A lot of people don't know that. I've told a lot of my members that. And another thing I want to say about factoring is factoring is not just factoring anymore. This is one soapbox that I'm always getting on social media. You have to look at so many other factors in factoring. It's evolved into a service, into almost banking, and credit cards. If you look at the back of their banner, you'll see there's 12 different departments they have. You can everything from discount tires to one thing that I use that I never thought about for a long time until about a year ago when I had a blowout on the road. Southern Tire is everywhere. Your driver might have a blowout in Odessa, like we did in Big Springs area, and we needed tires. And not everybody carries Hotshot tires, gooseneck trailer tires that size. You can't go to Love's and other places like that. But so we started looking. I started sending my drivers to Southern Tire, and then I used our discount. And well, maybe I'm on the wrong, but anyway, they offered discounts that we use almost daily, and there's so much more to factoring.
Well, that was really well said. I mean, I think a lot of people sometimes don't think of those other factors. They're only looking at the factoring company, but it's evolving a lot. I mean, it was a great conversation. I don't know if you guys had any final words, Ryan or Rob, or anything we haven't touched on that you guys want to touch on, either that's coming up or TAFS is working on, or just anything else you guys wanted to add.
Yeah, from my perspective, just more educational material. We put a lot of stuff on our website, and we have a guide, the ultimate guide to freight factoring, and it kind of just breaks down the whole process, what it is, what to look for in a contract, what to do all the way through the process, and it's really trying to be an unbiased guide to help you whenever you make your decision for factoring, what things to look for what they do, what they provide, the different fees that are involved in it, and all that type of stuff. And so TAFS.com, Ultimate Guide to Freight Factor, I can drop it in the link to it in this deal. And then we also just recently put out some more material about just Finance 101 for trucking companies. And so one of them is for brand new owner ops, some things that they should just look at, top 7 things to look at. And then other one is, for some of the larger carriers that are out there that are looking to expand their fleet, and some of the financial things that they should look at and have plans for. And so just education in the market, just being able to have different things out there that can help the carriers, because like we've talked about, carriers that we sign on, we want them to be successful, because the more successful they are, the more that we are. And so it only is a good relationship if that's happening for everyone.
Yeah, and I would add to that, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm not hard to get a hold of. When I go out, anyone I introduce myself to and I hand out my business card, it's got my cell phone number on there. I'm not afraid to work whenever it's needed. even just to have simple conversations, whether it leads to us doing business or not. There's always great ways to make synergies in this industry. As large as transportation is, it's a very close knit group, and and you can go a lot of different ways. So I'm always open to have any type of conversation, good, bad. If you're having issues, feel free to reach out and let's talk through those. If you have some good experiences or some opportunities, let's talk through those too.
And
What's
I'll
the
just
best
say
way to
for
reach
anybody
out to you?
listening, just real quick, when Ryan says that he means it, it was a couple of months ago. We were all texting, and Matt had a friend who had a question or something, and Ryan said, "Was send to my cell phone." It was like 9:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was like, "That's crazy." Matt, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to see the the best way basically to reach you guys. Is it through LinkedIn, your website, or somebody's just looking to get more info about TAFS? What's kind of the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, all the above. If it's on LinkedIn, if you want to reach out directly to Ryan or myself or any of our folks that are in the in the squad here, we'll find a way to get you to the right person to speak to, whether that's from a broker perspective, from a carrier perspective, technology perspective, all that type of stuff. LinkedIn's great. Our website, www.tafs.com, TAFS.com. Is great. And then there's all kinds of phone numbers out there on all the different marketing materials and things that we send out. And so that's going to be able to have all kinds of stuff and all the resources and different things like that. Yep. We have chats and we have all kinds of stuff.
Yep. And then I'll personally be attending ATA here in a couple of weeks in Nashville. And then I know Rob and I will both be and Matt, yourself too, at the Broker Carrier Summit the week after that in October. So, which we're going to be the headline sponsor for. So, anyone that wants to chat that's going to attend any of those, feel free and hunt me down.
Yeah, you guys are going to have fun, a lot of time on the road, getting out there, and it'll be a fun time. Well, thanks again for joining us, David, Rob, Ryan. It was fun, and I'll see you guys next month.
Great.
All right.
Look forward to it.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
All right, man. Episode 27.
Yeah, no, that was fun, man. I learned a lot about factoring, some things I didn't know, and it was always fun. It'll be fun to meet those guys in person. But yeah, shout out to our sponsors, Multi-Service Fuel Card. I didn't realize we were Kansas City heavy on this podcast. Another Kansas company, been around since 1978. Great people. Black Box, Will's company, HG Ships, where I work. Trio Inc. does all of our back end offshoring. Sales Dash. Obviously, we were just talking about them. They're a customer of Will's. Great CRM, freight specific. Josh has worked in freight. Reach out to Josh Lyles. And then our banner sponsor, we just talked about TAFS. Learned a lot about them. Great company, great people, just really nice guys.
Yeah, man. Great group of sponsors. We're definitely aligned with some great companies. Well, yeah, man, we'll be back at it next week. Anybody tuned in, keep an eye out for the pages. I'm sure we'll be announcing the upcoming show. We'll link everybody's info when we repost the episode. So if you guys want to reach out to them, learn more about factoring or David with Hotshot Trucking, they're available.
Sounds good, man. See you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.